I froze in front of the mirror, the hem of my mother's skirt trembling in my hands. My breath caught as I caught sight of myself halfway into one of her elegant blouses, the satin fabric clinging to me in a way that felt right, even though it shouldn't. I thought I was alone. But then I heard it. The soft click of the bedroom door opening behind me. Her voice.
Come.
But sharp enough to slice through my heart. What do you think you're doing, Adam? My name sounded strange in her mouth just then, full of quiet disappointment. I spun around, my face burning, my mouth opening to stammer anything, but nothing came out. My mother stood there, arms crossed, her perfectly arched eyebrow raised. I wished I could disappear into the floor. I should tell you about me. My name's Adam. I'm 22, fresh out of college, and back at home for a while I figure out my next steps. I've always been a quiet kid, shy, bookish, never one to stand out or cause trouble. But there was this part of me. This secret part. Ever since I was a boy, I'd catch myself staring at the clothes in the women's section of stores, wondering what it might feel like to wear something soft and delicate, something graceful. I'd watch my mother apply her makeup in the mornings and imagine what it would be like to see that same confidence in my own eyes. But I never acted on it. Not until tonight. She had gone out for dinner with her friends, so I thought I had the house to myself. Her closet called to me like a siren. At first, it was just curiosity. Running my fingers along her dresses, feeling the silky fabrics. Then one thing led to another. A skirt slipped off its hanger, a blouse followed, and before I knew it, I was standing in front of her mirror, half dressed in her clothes, with a flush in my cheeks and a strange sort of happiness I couldn't explain. Until she walked in. Adam, she said again, this time softer. I swallowed hard. I'm sorry, I croaked, staring down at the floor. There was a long silence. I could feel her eyes on me, heavy and unreadable. When she finally spoke, her words weren't what I expected. You're wearing that all wrong. I blinked and looked up. She stepped closer, reached out, and tugged at the hem of the skirt I had clumsily fastened. You don't even know how to zip it properly, she added, almost amused. I didn't know what to say. My mouth opened, then shut again. She sighed and shook her head. Well, she said, if you're going to sneak into my clothes, you're at least going to do it right. She crossed her arms again, the faintest smile tugging at the corner of her lips. Starting tomorrow, I'm going to teach you how to really dress. And you're not allowed to say no. That night, lying in bed, I stared at the ceiling. Was this a punishment? A test? Or something else entirely? All I knew was, my life had just changed forever. The next morning, I woke with a pit in my stomach. I almost convinced myself it was all a bad dream until I walked into the kitchen and saw her waiting for me. My mother sat at the table, her coffee steaming in front of her, a faint smile playing on her lips. On the chair next to her was a neat stack of folded clothes, a soft cream blouse, a plaid skirt, and a pair of sheer stockings. She didn't even look up from her coffee when she spoke. Go get cleaned up, she said lightly. You'll change into these when you're done. I froze in the doorway, unsure if she was serious. She finally glanced up at me, raising an eyebrow. What are you waiting for? Chop chop. I swallowed hard and did as I was told. In the bathroom, I stared at my reflection for a long time before stepping into the shower. The hot water didn't wash away my nerves. By the time I emerged, toweling off, my hands trembled. One piece at a time, I dressed myself in the clothes she'd chosen. The skirt was a little tight, the blouse's buttons strained across my chest. The stockings clung to my legs like a second skin. When I finally stepped out, she was still waiting at the kitchen table. She set her coffee down slowly and looked me over. Better, she said after a moment, standing and circling me like an appraiser. But then she shook her head and sked. You walk like a linebacker, she said dryly. We'll have to fix that. That morning was the start of something I couldn't have predicted. Every day, she picked out my outfit. Some days it was soft and girly floral dresses, pastel cardigans, ballet flats. Other days it was sharp and businesslike pencil skirts, blouses, low heels. But it wasn't just about the clothes. She made me practice walking in heels, balancing books on my head. She showed me how to do my makeup, how to draw a perfect wing, how to blend my foundation, how to pick the right shade of lipstick. And she corrected me constantly. Chin up. Hands relaxed, not clenched. Smile. You're supposed to enjoy this. And the strangest part? Sometimes
I did. At first, it was mortifying.
every time I caught myself in the mirror, a pang of guilt shot through me. But after a few days, something shifted. I started to notice how natural it felt, how the clothes hung on me, how the makeup brought out a softness in my features I hadn't seen before. Even my mother's criticism started to feel more like care. One evening, as she pinned my hair up, she caught my eye in the mirror and smiled faintly. "You're starting to look like you belong in your own skin," she murmured.
I didn't know what to say.
But not everything was easy. One night, while I practiced walking in heels, I heard my phone buzz on the counter. It was a message from my best friend, Ben. "Hey man, you've been MIA. Everything okay?" My fingers hovered over the keyboard. What could I possibly say? Oh, nothing much, just letting my mom turn me into her little doll. I put the phone down without replying, my heart sinking. That night, lying in bed, I stared at the ceiling. Was this really me? Or was I just letting her mold me into something I'd regret? But even as those doubts crept in, a faint smile tugged at my lips. Because for the first time in my life, I felt seen. The next few weeks passed in a blur of fabrics, colors, and quiet instruction. Every morning, my mother laid out something new on the chair at the kitchen table. A lilac sundress one day, a crisp navy skirt suit the next. Even little accessories, a pearl necklace here, a matching clutch there. Each day, she pushed me a little further. One morning, she even handed me a pair of dangling earrings. "You'll need to pierce them eventually," she mused, "but for now we can use clip-ons."
Sit.
And without another word, she clipped them to my earlobes. The makeup lessons became longer, more demanding. "You've gotten sloppy with your eyeliner," she chided one evening, leaning over my shoulder and wiping it away with a cotton swab. "Sorry," I murmured. She tilted my chin up and met my eyes in the mirror. "No more apologizing," she said firmly. "You're not doing anything wrong. Own it." Her words rang in my head long after she'd gone to bed. It wasn't just at home anymore. She started taking me out. At first, it was just the grocery store early in the morning when no one we knew was around. "Head up," she whispered as I pushed the cart. "Relax your shoulders." I felt my heart hammering in my chest the whole time. Sure, everyone was staring at me. But no one did. Or, at least no one said anything. By the third trip, I almost felt normal. Then came the shopping mall. "I can't keep lending you my things," she said matter-of-factly. "We're getting you your own wardrobe." Walking through the racks of dresses and skirts, I felt my face flush hot. But she kept a hand on my arm, guiding me through it all. She picked out colors she thought suited me, fabrics that flattered me. A saleslady even smiled knowingly at me once as she rang up the pile of clothes. "First time?" she asked kindly. I just nodded mutely while my mother smirked. That night, sitting in my room, I couldn't stop running my fingers over the new clothes hanging in my closet. They were mine now, not hers.
Mine.
But outside our little world, cracks were starting to form. Ben texted again. "Seriously, Adam, what's going on? Why are you ghosting everyone? Is this about that job thing?"
Talk to me, man.
I stared at the screen, my stomach twisting. What would he say if he saw me now?
What would anyone say?
And my mother, she was changing too. She started watching me differently, not with judgment, but with a strange sort of pride. One night, as she zipped me into a little black dress, she rested her hands on my shoulders and smiled at me in the mirror. "You're really becoming something," she said softly.
I didn't know what that meant.
But I felt my chest swell all the same. Later that evening, just as I was drifting off to sleep, I thought I heard her voice outside my door.
Low.
Almost conspiratorial. "Just a little longer," she murmured. And then silence. I sat up in bed, my heart pounding. Who was she talking to? It was a Saturday afternoon when everything started to shift. I was in my room, sitting at my vanity, practicing a new look my mother had taught me. A soft pink lip, smoky eyes, a delicate necklace resting just so on my collarbone. I'd finally started to enjoy these quiet moments, seeing her plan come to life on my face. Until my phone rang. I hesitated before picking it up. It was Ben. For the first time in weeks, I answered. "Hello," I said, my voice uncertain. "Dude," he said immediately. "Where have you been? Everyone's asking. I even stopped by last night, but your mom said you weren't feeling well. Are you okay?" I swallowed hard, my pulse quickening. "I'm fine," I lied. There was a long pause. "You don't sound fine," he said. "Is someone making you?" "I'm fine," I said again, a little too forcefully. He fell quiet. "All right," he said finally. "But if you need me, you know where I am." When I hung up, my hands were shaking. That evening, my mother found me standing in the hallway, staring at the front door. "You're not thinking of leaving, are you?" she asked, her tone light but with an edge of steel. I turned slowly. "I just need some air," I said weakly. She studied me for a moment before stepping closer and brushing a stray hair off my shoulder. "Adam," she said softly, "you're not ready yet. You'll ruin everything if you rush this." Her fingers lingered on my chin, tilting it up. "Trust me," she added with a faint smile. But later that week, the pressure grew worse. I was walking through the grocery store in a fitted skirt and heels, with her watching closely when someone called my name. "Adam." I froze. It was Ben. He was standing just a few feet away, holding a basket of groceries, his eyes wide. What is this?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. I opened my mouth, but no sound came out. Behind me, my mother stepped forward, placing a protective hand on my back. "Adam," she said firmly, "let's go." I let her steer me away, my cheeks burning with shame. That night, Ben texted me. "I don't know what's going on, but you're not acting like yourself anymore.
Please talk to me."
I didn't reply. I couldn't. But the strangest thing happened after that. My mother became gentler. She started praising me more often, telling me how graceful I was becoming, how beautiful I looked in certain colors. "You're finally learning," she said one evening as she buttoned me into a powder blue dress. I forced a small smile. But deep down, I wasn't sure if I was learning or losing myself. And then, late one night, I woke to faint voices coming from downstairs. I crept to the top of the stairs and listened. My mother was on the phone. "Yes, he's almost ready," she was saying. A long pause. "Yes," she added, her tone chilling now. "He's exactly what we wanted." The next morning, I couldn't look her in the eye. We sat at the breakfast table in silence. My coffee went cold as she read the newspaper, her expression as calm as ever. But my heart was pounding. I kept hearing her words from the night before, echoing in my mind. "He's exactly what we wanted."
Who was we?
And what did she mean by wanted? After breakfast, she stood up and glanced at me, with that faint smile I was starting to hate. "Go get dressed," she said. "We have somewhere to be." I didn't move. Her smile faltered slightly. "Adam," she said, her voice a little sharper now. "Go get dressed." I stood up, my chair scraping loudly against the tile. "No," I said quietly. She blinked at me, then laughed. "No," she repeated, as if amused. I swallowed hard, my hands trembling. "What's going on?" I demanded.
What are you doing to me?
"What does exactly what we wanted mean?" For the first time, she didn't smile. Her eyes narrowed slightly, and she stepped closer. "You weren't happy before," she said evenly. "You were lost. Invisible. I gave you purpose. I gave you a way to shine." Her words were low and deliberate, like she'd rehearsed them. "You should be thanking me," she added. But I just stared at her, my stomach twisting. "This isn't about me," I said hoarsely. Something dark flashed in her eyes, but she recovered quickly. "Maybe not," she admitted. And then she smiled again. "But you look so pretty when you do as you're told." That afternoon, she drove us across town to a small, upscale boutique. She practically dragged me inside, her grip on my arm firm but not bruising. "Final fitting," she murmured. The saleswoman greeted her like an old friend and ushered us into a private back room. I stood in the middle of the room as my mother and the saleswoman pulled a gown from its hanger, a shimmering champagne-colored dress, elegant and expensive. "This is the one," my mother said, her eyes glittering. I shook my head and took a step back. "No," I whispered. "Yes," she corrected, her voice like ice. And then she leaned close, her breath hot against my ear.
"You're mine now, Adam.
"You always have been. Don't you forget that." I don't remember much after that. I let them dress me. I let them pin and tuck and adjust until I stood in front of the mirror, unrecognizable. The saleswoman clapped her hands together.
"Perfect," she said.
But all I saw was a stranger staring back at me. That night, when we got home, I locked myself in my room and finally answered Ben's texts. "Help me?" I typed with shaking fingers. "Please." Ben showed up that night. I heard his car screech into the driveway and his heavy footsteps up the porch. Then came the pounding on the door. "Adam, open up." My mother appeared in the hallway, her calm mask already back in place. "Well," she murmured, smoothing her skirt. "That didn't take long." I froze at the top of the stairs, my phone still in my hand. "Adam." Ben's voice again, louder, more desperate. I took a deep breath and hurried down before she could stop me. When I yanked open the door, Ben nearly fell inside. His eyes widened as he took me in, still in the champagne gown, makeup smudged, stockings clinging to my legs. "Oh my God," he whispered. Then I started, but my voice cracked. Behind me, my mother's heels clicked on the floor. "Well," she said sweetly, "you've certainly made this messy, haven't you?" Ben's head snapped toward her. "What are you doing to him?" he demanded, stepping forward. Her smile didn't falter. "Nothing he didn't want," she replied evenly. Ben turned to me, his expression torn between confusion and anger. "Adam, talk to me," he said, softer now. I opened my mouth, and then she spoke again. "Adam," she said firmly, "don't you dare forget everything I've done for you. You belong here. You belong to me." Her words hit me like a slap. I clenched my fists, the fabric of the gown bunching in my hands. "No," I said, louder this time. Her eyes narrowed. "What did you say?" I said no. I repeated, my voice shaking. Ben moved closer, resting a hand on my shoulder. "You don't have to stay here," he said quietly. "You don't understand," she snapped suddenly, her mask cracking for the first time. Her voice rose, sharp and desperate. "He was nothing before this. Nothing. I made him beautiful. I made him." But she stopped herself, her chest heaving. I stared at her, finally seeing the truth in her eyes. Her control wasn't strength. It was fear. And for the first time in weeks, I straightened my back and looked her in the eye. "I'm leaving," I said. She shook her head, laughing bitterly. "You'll come crawling back," she hissed. But I didn't answer. Ben tightened his grip on my arm and pulled me toward the door. Outside, the night air felt like freedom. But as we reached his car, I glanced back and saw her silhouette in the window, watching us. Her arms were crossed. Her smile had returned. And it wasn't a smile of defeat. The drive to Ben's apartment was quiet at first. I sat in the passenger seat, still dressed in the champagne gown, my hands folded tightly in my lap. The makeup on my face felt heavy now, like a mask I didn't know how to take off. Ben finally spoke as we pulled into the parking lot. "Do you want to tell me what that was all about?" I stared out the window for a moment before answering. She caught me once. Wearing her clothes, I said softly. And instead of getting mad, she encouraged me. She started dressing me, teaching me, and it just got out of control. Ben was quiet for a long time. Then he parked the car and turned to me. "Well," he said finally, "you don't have to go back there. Not if you don't want to." I nodded slowly, but deep down, a chill ran through me, because part of me wasn't sure what I wanted anymore. That night, I lay awake on Ben's couch, staring at the ceiling. My phone buzzed on the coffee table. A message. From her. "You'll be back. You know you will." I put the phone face down and closed my eyes. But even in the dark, I could see her face smiling that knowing smile. And worst, a tiny part of me smiled back. The next morning, as I stepped into the shower, I caught sight of myself in the mirror. The faint smudge of eyeliner still clung to my lashes. And for just a moment, I didn't hate what I saw. Later that day, as Ben headed out for work, he paused in the doorway and glanced back at me. "You'll figure it out," he said, trying to sound hopeful. I forced a small smile. But when the door closed and I was alone, my phone buzzed again. A new message from her. This time, it simply said, "Tonight. You know where to find me." I stared at the screen, my pulse quickening. My hand hovered over the reply button. And that was when I realized, maybe I wasn't finished yet. To be continued.